Today is the first official day that teams can franchise tag players. Franchise tag window is now open, and what does that mean for a Jaylon Johnson contract extension? The clock is officially ticking on Ryan Poles' time to get a contract extension done with Jaylon Johnson. Today is the first day that teams can franchise tag players in the NFL, and it begins just a short 2-week window that teams have if they want to place a tag on a player. Why is this important, and what does it mean for Jaylon Johnson and his contract extensions? Today I'm going to break it all down and explain why Jaylon Johnson is one of the best corners in the NFL and worth a big-time contract. Let's get right into it. Jaylon Johnson is just 24 years old, and he just had his best season of his young career with 4 interceptions in his first Pro Bowl and All-Pro appearances. JJ tried to get a contract extension done last offseason, and before the season started, JJ was interviewed and said he isn't even worth a contract as much as Trayvon Diggs got because he doesn't have the Pro Bowl accolades that Diggs does. He doesn't have the interceptions that Trayvon does, but Ryan Poles never got a deal done, and JJ bet on himself. So now yesterday's price is not today's price. The price went up. Now JJ has the interceptions. He has a forced fumble. He has an All-Pro appearance. So he gambled on himself and he won. Sportrack has a new contract for JJ valued at 5 years and $79 million. That projection is from before the season and before he got 4 interceptions and made the Pro Bowl. The most current projection would be something closer to $20 million a season. Christopher Knox from Bleacher Report projected a 5-year deal worth about $97.5 million. Now that sounds closer to realistic to me. I think they could find a middle ground somewhere in between those two prices, but JJ's price definitely went up. He had a huge year and was one of the best cover corners in the entire league. He's allowed only a 50% completion rate when targeted. On the season, he was targeted 50 times for just 25 catches and 195 yards. He only gave up 1 touchdown on the entire year, and he had 4 interceptions and a forced fumble. His passer rating when targeted was just 33.3, and he had a 90.8 overall grade and a 91.0 coverage grade from PFF. He was simply elite. He is a master technician, capable of shutting down opposing receivers. He's only 24 years old, and he's entering his prime. The clock has officially started ticking on a new deal today, as the window to franchise tag a player officially opened up, February 20th, 2024. Poles has 2 weeks now to either get a deal done or slap the franchise tag on Jaylon Johnson. There's just no way that Poles lets the deadline of March 5th, which is 2 weeks from today, pass without signing JJ to an extension or franchise tagging him. That doesn't mean he can't still sign him to an extension though. If he ends up getting franchise tagged, he still would have until mid-July to work out an extension. Last year's deadline was July 17th. I expect a similar deadline this year. That's important to take into consideration here though. We will find out news in the next 2 weeks. Either Ryan Poles will franchise tag or extend JJ. If he gets his extension, all of the talk can end and we can move on with the happy JJ. Jaylon has said it before though. The franchise tag for the cornerback is also a big payday for 1 year. The non-exclusive franchise tag for a cornerback in 2024 is $18.7 million. The exclusive tag value will not be announced or known until after free agency. That's when the top 5 values at the position get settled and they can establish a value. No matter what happens in the next 2 weeks, Jaylon Johnson is going to be getting paid, and he will be a Chicago Bear in 2024 and hopefully beyond. But if he gets franchised in the next 2 weeks, that does not mean that Ryan Poles cannot work out a long-term deal still. He would have roughly 4 months to work out an extension with JJ's agent if he gets hit with the franchise tag. The deadline ends before training camp. So once we get to training camp, that is when JJ would have to play on the 1-year franchise tag. But JJ is also the leader of this secondary now. Eddie Jackson is gone, and we have a ton of youngsters in the secondary. We have Jaquan Brisker, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith, and Elijah Hicks. All these guys are very young. And JJ is also the longest tenured Bear now, with Cody Whitehair and Bojack being gone. So he has to step up this year. And I think Ryan Poles also has to send a message to this locker room that if you bet on yourself and you play the way JJ did in 2023, he will reward you with a long-term extension. You don't want guys in the locker room saying, hey, look how well JJ played, and Poles didn't pay him, especially after what happened with Roquan Smith and the fact that he traded away our previous leaders like Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn. So I think this is something that Poles just has to get done. I don't think he has to get it done in the next 2 weeks. He can use the franchise tag to his advantage and buy himself that extra time, but he has to get this done before training camp. So as of today, the clock is officially ticking. I think it benefits him as well to get it done before free agency, so these next 2 weeks really matter. That way he knows exactly how much money he has to spend this year. If the negotiations keep dragging on and last until training camp, Poles is just going to have to operate under the assumption that JJ plays on the franchise tag. I don't think Ryan Poles or Jaylon Johnson want to deal with that kind of distraction all off-season long. The longer this plays out, the more of a story it becomes and the more of a distraction it is to the locker room. I don't want to get to training camp and have all of the questions for every player on the roster be about JJ and his contract. I want this team to continue to stay focused on building on this foundation and winning football games. It's in the best interest of both Ryan Poles and Jaylon Johnson to get this contract done sooner rather than later. Don't let this linger on all off season. I don't think this is one that he should mess around with. Get Jaylon Johnson signed. Pay the man. You gambled last year. You lost on this one. Get this contract done once and for all. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Please remember to hit that like button for me. Stay tuned. I have a ton more content on the way. And until next time, bear down.